This episode is brought to you by Cologuard. Do you know what's really scary? Not screening for colon cancer when you turn 45. The Cologuard test is non-invasive, requires no special prep or time off work, and ships right to your door. In just 3 simple steps, Cologuard takes the scare out of colon cancer screening. If you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about the Cologuard test. Cologuard is available by prescription only. Learn more or request a prescription today at Cologuard.com/screen.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Let me begin by telling you, this is fascinating. As I think I've explained to you before, my friends, one of my passions, and should be yours, is something that actually scares me. You see, it's very easy when you do these things to talk about stuff that might be, I don't know, fun, exciting, weird, mysterious, UFOs and that sort of stuff, but that's not going to kill you. That's not going to kill you. That doesn't pose an existential threat. A UAP does not pose an existential threat, whether you like it or not. It's just true. It is not. However, what I'm about to discuss does. And what is it? Well, first of all, there is a fellow by the name of Peter Thiel. Now, Elon Musk gets all the credit. Everybody talks about Elon Musk. Elon Musk this, Elon Musk that. But the guy who really makes me wonder, the one that I really worry about, in addition to Sam Altman, by virtue of how strange these people are, is Peter Thiel. And he's kind of quiet, you know. He's kind of in the background, so to speak. He's just one of these tech billionaires, and but you don't really hear too much about him. Well, you might have heard about this thing called Palantir. Now, Palantir is the most fascinating of them all. And Palantir is a system, it is a program that could very well change the course, and could very well be doing it right now as we speak when it comes to the notion of warfare. And here's the problem, and this is what's so scary. This is why I think it's fabulous. It's so interesting. You see, imagine you're waking up one morning and discovering that the most powerful decision in human history, the most powerful plans, decisions that man can possibly make are no longer made by human beings. Nope, not by generals, not by presidents, not by legislatures, not by voters, but by code. Imagine lines of logic written by engineers and processed by machines and executed at speeds that no human conscience can follow. And I emphasize the word conscience. This isn't science fiction. It is the direction that modern warfare is rapidly moving and could be here now. You see, for centuries, the most frightening element of war was human cruelty. The brutality of man against man, the rage, the ambition, the vengeance, all of that drive conflict. But because war was human, we believed it could still be restrained by human judgment. Even in the darkness and the smoke and the fog of war, there remained maybe the possibility of hesitation, maybe a pause where conscience, there's that word again, might intervene, and judgment. But now something colder is emerging. And let's call it machines. It's not really a machine, but for shorthand purposes, we'll call it a machine. It's AI. And not just machines that assist human beings, but something even more frightening, but machines that decide. You see, today, our battlefields are increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence systems that analyze absolute oceans of data, including, among other things, inter alia, as we say, satellite imagery, phone metadata, drone footage, heat signatures, financial movements, even social media patterns. And all of it flows into these huge analytic engines that in seconds, milliseconds, produce what the military calls a targeting solution or a likely threat or a probable location, or a suggested strike, a recommendation. And the terrifying shift, and this is what frightens me, is that instead of asking whether a target should be struck, for example, involving human operators, what we're asking is, instead of whether it's a good idea, what the algorithm recommends. See, authority is moving quietly from human conscience to machine calculation. And philosophers call this wonderful term, it's a great word to learn, abnegation, 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 which is when you surrender responsibility. And we tell ourselves, by the way, that the machine is it's only a tool, and we keep saying, oh, no, humans remain in control. But the more complex these systems become, the more humans defer to them. And this is known as automation bias. You see, this is the tendency that we have to assume that when a machine is fast or complicated, it must be correct because it processes more data than any person could understand. Yet, probability, as I mentioned before, is not morality, and prediction is not wisdom, and it's not, here's my word again, judgment. And one of the most controversial players in the new battlefield, in this weird environment of operational information, is Palantir. That's Palantir. This is the system of data platforms where they integrate massive streams of intel and operational information. And military forces, by the way, use these systems to, this is great, identify patterns, locate threats, generate targeting recommendations. You see what I just said? Didn't that sound good? How do you know it does that? It'll give you an answer, but how do you know what's the basis for this? You don't know. And supporters of it say, oh, it's revolutionary, and it increases precision. Does it? But the people like I know, like perhaps the Pope, I'm with the Vatican on this one. We'll talk about that in a moment because Peter Thiel's back with his Antichrist business. But a lot of people are asking this question. Who is responsible when the algorithm is all wrong? How do we know when it's wrong? These systems don't supply simply display information. They rank, possibilities and highlights suspects, and they prioritize targets. And the algorithm tells analysts which signals matter and which can be ignored. But it doesn't understand justice. It doesn't recognize mercy. It can't weigh context and history or human dignity. It just calculates. And as these systems grow more and more sophisticated, the temptation grows to trust them more deeply. This is what is frightening. And machines don't get tired, as you know. Machines don't panic. They don't hesitate. They don't analyze anything other than patterns at scales beyond human comprehension. And we still don't know, but what is it doing? So we begin to rely on them and then depend on them and then eventually obey them. And that's the scary part. And battlefields, because what we're talking about right now, remember, I don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening, and we don't know what's being implemented. We have no idea because nobody's telling us anything. And whether it's this war, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's the global South, who knows? Autonomous drones now receive coordinates generated by AI systems. And by the and this is not necessarily the United States. This is around the world. This is everything. The strike recommendations appear in seconds, and they engage windows, and they shrink to moments, and the human role becomes smaller and smaller, only pressing a confirmation button, and eventually not even that. And military planners already speak of machine speed warfare that moves so quickly that human decision making becomes a bottleneck. We have now hypersonic weapons. Have you seen these? Cyber attacks operating on timescales measured in heptoseconds. I mean, eye blinks. Machines acting faster. Now, there's something else that's going on, and I don't know, I have no idea what the hell this is about. But Peter Thiel, who was the head of Palantir, is set to deliver a secret series of lectures in Rome exploring the idea of the Antichrist again. and the future of technological power. And the closed-door talks in Rome, this is scheduled to run for 4 days, have already sparked controversy because they appear to place Peter Thiel, Palantir, and this group in conflict with Leo XIV, the Pope, the Church's first American Pope. And what Thiel is saying is he has long warned that fear-driven regulation of technology could lead to what? This is my favorite, a centralized global authority. A global authority capable of halting scientific progress. And in fact, in interviews he's been giving, he suggested that constant warnings about existential threats, like I'm doing and other people are doing, such as, AI or climate catastrophe, whatever, could become the political justification for a kind of a one-world technocratic regime. It's the opposite. That's what he's doing. In that framework, those demanding strict regulation of emerging technologies risk becoming what he calls, I guess metaphorically, agents of an antichrist system that suppress innovation. Those views absolutely in contrast with Pope Leo's recent statements. He wants stronger oversight of AI, and I agree. And the Pope argued that regulation is necessary not to stop progress, but to guide it responsibly. And to, you ready for this? Protect human dignity. Now, like I said before, this is something which is right here, right now. And if anything's going to change, if anything's going to be, or at least even considered, it has to be done now, immediately. And people have to stand up, Congress and otherwise, and stop talking about a lot of stuff that is. By the way, this is a tad pontificating, but it's true. Because what I'm talking about is for the first thing that is existential. Everything else I'm going to talk about tonight does not threaten the existence of mankind. Okay? Because before, we only talked about the bomb. And we only talked about the bomb itself. And then we worried about, triggers. Annie Jacobson talked about triggers that might, for example, cause or trigger, hence the word, a nuclear attack based upon bad information. But what I'm talking about is something along those lines, which is we have a system that is going to be implemented, which we are not going to be able to stop. And it should absolutely terrify you. Let me explain this again. This isn't a UFO talk. This isn't about, Bigfoot or not that that's not, because I love that stuff. It's fantastic. This is about something else. This is we are right at the precipice. Now, up till now, whenever something came along, we found out about it afterwards. We found out about the Manhattan Project afterwards. We found out about the nuclear bomb afterwards. We found out about a lot of things afterwards, after they were already, developed. And that was good. And I guess you're not going to necessarily alert us to what's going on, especially when the enemy is listening. But right now, we need to have serious talks about this. Because what we're doing is we're turning our back because we don't understand it, because we don't grasp it, because it's not something that we're necessarily hip to. We're just kind of looking the other way. And I can't be more serious than I am. And I'm not the only one who's thinking this. This is as scary as it gets, because this isn't about the bomb. It's about what executes the bomb and the criteria or lack thereof that are employed.